All right, folks, buckle up because we're diving headfirst into the literary phenomenon that had book talk absolutely losing its collective mind. We're talking about Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us, a book that somehow managed to make millions of people ugly cry while simultaneously making literary critics question the very fabric of modern romance fiction. And yes, we're going full spoiler mode here, so if you haven't read it yet and actually care about surprises, maybe come back later. But honestly, the plot twists in this book are about as subtle as a neon sign in a library. So let's meet our protagonist, Lily Bloom. Yes, that's actually her name, Lily Bloom, because apparently when you're writing a book about growth and new beginnings, subtlety is completely optional. Lily's got daddy issues the size of Texas, having grown up watching her father abuse her mother. Classic setup for a romance novel heroine who's destined to repeat generational trauma until she has a life-changing epiphany, right? Our girl Lily moves to Boston to start her own floral business because of course she does. Her name is literally Bloom, people. The symbolism here is so heavy-handed you could use it as a paperweight. Enter Ryle Kincaid, and oh boy, where do we even start with this guy? He's a neurosurgeon because apparently regular doctors aren't swoon-worthy enough for modern romance. Ryle is tall, dark, handsome, and commitment issues that could fill their own self-help book. It's like emotional whiplash, but make it sexy. Their meet-cute happens on a rooftop where Lily finds Ryle having what can only be described as a very attractive tantrum, kicking chairs around because he couldn't save a patient. Nothing says romance like a man with anger management issues, am I right? But wait, it gets better. They have this intense conversation about wanting just one night together, and then plot twist, they actually don't sleep together that night, because apparently blueballing your readers is the new foreplay in contemporary romance. Now, here's where things get interesting, and by interesting, I mean predictably complicated. We get flashbacks to Lily's teenage years and her first love, Atlas Corrigan. Atlas was the homeless kid she helped when she was 16, and their love story is the kind of pure, innocent romance that makes you believe in soulmates and also question why anyone would name their kid Atlas. Their relationship was all stolen moments and shared dreams until Atlas had to leave for the military, breaking teenage Lily's heart into approximately 17 million pieces. Fast forward to present day, and wouldn't you know it, Lily runs into Atlas again. He's now a successful chef, because of course he is. We can't have our love interest be anything less than wildly successful and devastatingly handsome. The chemistry between them is still there, simmering like a perfectly prepared risotto. But there's one tiny problem. Lily is now married to Ryle. Oh yeah, did I mention that Lily and Ryle got married? Because they did, in what can only be described as the fastest relationship progression since Ross and Rachel's Vegas wedding. One minute they're having casual encounters, the next minute they're saying, I do. It's like watching someone speed run a relationship, except instead of getting a high score, you get emotional trauma.
Here's where the book takes a sharp left turn from steamy romance into serious territory. Ryle starts showing his true colors, and spoiler alert, they're not pretty. The man has a temper that makes the Hulk look zen, and unfortunately, Lily becomes the target. The first incident happens when Ryle burns his hand and accidentally hits Lily while flailing around. She gets a black eye, he's horrified, and they both pretend it was just a terrible accident. Because nothing says healthy relationship like making excuses for violence. But here's the thing about patterns. They tend to repeat themselves. Ryle's behavior escalates, and suddenly Lily finds herself living the same nightmare she watched her mother endure. The irony is so thick, you could cut it with a knife. And Hoover makes sure we all understand just how thick it is by having Lily explicitly think about the parallels. Subtlety really took a vacation in this book. The domestic abuse storyline is handled with the delicacy of a sledgehammer, but somehow it still manages to be effective. Hoover doesn't shy away from showing how smart, strong women can find themselves trapped in abusive relationships. It's actually one of the book's stronger elements, even if it's wrapped up in enough romance novel cheese to stock a Wisconsin dairy farm. Meanwhile, Atlas keeps popping up like a well-meaning guardian angel with perfect timing and even more perfect abs. Every time Lily needs saving, there he is, ready to remind her that she deserves better. It's like having a human safety net. Except this safety net can cook gourmet meals and looks like he stepped off the cover of a fitness magazine. The climax comes when Ryle's abuse escalates to the point where Lily ends up in the hospital.
Atlas finds her there, and in a moment that's both heartbreaking and oddly satisfying, he tells her that her husband did this to her. It's the wake-up call Lily needed, even though readers saw it coming from approximately chapter 3. Here's where Hoover throws in her big twist. We learn that Ryle's violent tendencies stem from childhood trauma. When he was 6, he accidentally shot and killed his older brother while playing with a gun. It's meant to explain his behavior, not excuse it, but the execution feels a bit like trauma Olympics. Everyone in this book has suffered some form of devastating loss or abuse, and it starts to feel less like character development and more like a competition for who can have the most tragic backstory. Lily finally finds the strength to leave Ryle, but not before discovering she's pregnant with his child, because apparently this story needed one more complication to really drive home the difficulty of her situation. The pregnancy adds another layer to her decision-making process, and Hoover uses it to explore how the cycle of abuse affects not just the immediate victims, but future generations. The book ends with Lily choosing herself and her daughter, breaking the cycle that trapped her mother. She divorces Ryle and eventually reunites with Atlas. Because, of course she does. It's the ending that every reader saw coming from mile 1, but somehow it still manages to feel satisfying. Maybe it's because we're all suckers for a good redemption arc, or maybe it's because Atlas really is that perfect. Now, let's talk about why this book became such a phenomenon despite its flaws. It ends with us hit book talk like a literary tsunami, with readers making emotional videos about how the book destroyed them. And honestly, it's not hard to see why. The book tackles serious issues while still delivering the emotional romance novel escapism that readers crave. It's like emotional junk food. You know it's not great for you, but it tastes so good going down.
The criticism of this book often centers around its treatment of domestic abuse as a plot device for romance. Some argue that it romanticizes toxic relationships or uses trauma as entertainment. There's definitely validity to these concerns, especially when you consider how the book markets itself primarily as a romance rather than a serious exploration of domestic violence. But here's the thing. Despite its flaws, It Ends With Us has started important conversations about domestic abuse and helped readers recognize patterns in their own relationships. Sometimes imperfect art can still have a powerful impact, even if it makes literary purists cringe. The book's success also highlights our collective hunger for stories that deal with real issues, even if they're wrapped up in romance novel packaging. We want our entertainment to mean something, to make us feel something beyond just butterflies and swoony feelings. Hoover managed to tap into that desire, even if her execution wasn't always perfect. In the end, It Ends With Us is a book that's simultaneously deeply flawed and oddly powerful. It's predictable yet surprising, heavy-handed yet effective. It's the literary equivalent of a guilty pleasure that accidentally teaches you something important about yourself and the world around you. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what